In the last lesson, we saw that God will be victorious. Not only does he preserve his people through the tribulation, not only will many be saved then as they respond to the eternal gospel, but at the end of the tribulation, when Satan has done all that he can to conspire against God, Jesus Christ will come and he will reign. In these next two chapters and up to verse 10 of chapter 19, which we will cover in this lesson, John goes back to fill in some of the details that his overview has mentioned, without really giving much details about. It should be said that these are quite difficult chapters to interpret in terms of the fine detail, and excellent Bible teachers have come to different conclusions as to what exactly is being said. What is clear is that these events in the future are indeed future. They will be clear as day to those alive when they take place. But it is important to know that they will definitely take place. We're not dealing with wild fantasies that are spiritualized away to completely lose all meaning, but with solid history, albeit future. Also, whilst differences of opinion may exist, and only time will tell of the reality, many of the differences are about precise details. The broad brushstrokes are clear enough. So, for example, Babylon may be rebuilt and then destroyed, or it may refer to a system that was first seen in the original Babylon in Genesis 11 that is destroyed, or it may be code for Rome, which will be destroyed. All three are possible interpretations that would adequately explain chapters 17 and 18. The key thing is not the where, but the what. It is the fact that it is destroyed that is fundamental to our understanding of these chapters. On this, most reliable commentators would agree. Babel, Hebrew, or Babylon, Greek, was established in Nimrod's day. It was an attempt to get to God in man's own way. It became a centre for what we would call today universal ecumenicalism. There was one language, one kind of trade, one kind of law, etc. It was a prosperous and mighty city which lasted and outlasted the falls of the Babylonian, Medo-Persian and Greek empires. So John, in referring to a woman called Babylon, is viewing a great and terrible false religious system. The sort of teaching that says it doesn't matter what you believe so long as you have faith in whatever you want. It also refers to a great commercial system that often goes alongside false religion. What vast sums of money are taken from ordinary folk in the name of religion. Over the years, what terrible deeds have been done under the guise of religion, with the threat of judgment from any god lying behind a call to perform terrible obedience. This woman that he sees is described as a harlot. The nation of Israel was accused of harlotry because they had known the truth but wandered away from it. So this system may well be what is left after the Lord Jesus takes all true Christians to be with him in heaven before the tribulation begins. When the threat was made to Laodicea, "I am about to spew you out of my mouth," it foresaw an apostate, professing but unreal system of religion that God found nauseous. Initially, this system of religion and commerce will ride upon the power that arises out of Western Europe that we were introduced to in chapters 12 and 13. They are dressed in scarlet, very visible to all. Her true character will be plain for all to see, evidenced by her name appearing on her forehead. Towards the beginning of the tribulation, this Babylon will exert enormous influence, religious and economic, over the political world. However, this will not last. The beast, as head of the earthly power, will tolerate no rival to his authority. We have met this beast already. The 7 heads probably refer to the great 7 empires that rose up against the nation of Israel: Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, and the final reinvention of Rome in the last times. Today, we still live in the days when this power is not. But after the church is taken to heaven, it will rise again. Nominally, the beast will lead a confederation of 10 nations, represented by the 10 horns. However, such is his diabolical greed that he will soon be raised up as the supreme power, suggested by verse 11. In much the same way that in the 1930s, Hitler was the leader of the Third Reich, but by the time of the war, he was pretty much the sole authority in Germany. The 10 nations that support the rise of the beast are said to have not yet received their kingdoms. At the time of John's writing, the geographical borders of much of the world were very different to those in existence today, and may again change before the end times. Whichever these nations are, they will willingly give their power to the beast, who promises to solve all the problems of the world. Verse 14 shows us that the beast will be implacably opposed to the Lord Jesus, but his hostility is doomed to failure. Opposition to the one who is King of Kings and Lord of Lords must inevitably end in failure. Whereas chapter 17 has introduced us to the fall of Babylon, whether literal city or organisation, from a geopolitical point of view, i.e. with reference to the rise and the final world empire headed by and eventually dominated by the beast, chapter 18 views the destruction of Babylon from God's perspective. Her moral collapse is announced as she has become a cesspit of corruption and home to all kinds of iniquity. Never has the phrase "power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely" been more true. This false religious and economic organisation that has wielded such power and influence has become utterly immoral in its aims. God will in full measure bring judgment upon those involved in her evil work. In some measure, we have seen the disaster that combining state and church has brought across the centuries: the Crusades, or the 17th century wars of religion, for example. Evil people have tried to harness the power of religion for their own political ends, and the false church has tried to exert political influence over the world for its own ends. Sadly, the greatest persecutor of true believers has often been the apostate church. However, God will not let her iniquity continue forever unjudged, and her downfall will be complete. Since the banking crisis, we are familiar with the term financial contagion. So the breakdown of Babylon will lead to the interruption of normal commerce and trade, as well as social order. Her destruction is swift, as indicated by the repeated use of the phrase "in 1 hour", and will be the cause of great grief. Her destruction will also be complete, as evidenced by the picture of a millstone being thrown into the sea. The ripples will spread out wide, but Babylon will disappear without trace. What is a cause for weeping and sorrow upon earth is a cause for celebration in heaven. Much evil has been perpetrated in the name of religion, and it is right that it is judged by God. In glorious contrast to a great harlot, Babylon, we see a pure bride, the true church in heaven. She is to be forever joined to the Lord Jesus as a bride to her husband. What a glorious prospect this is for the true believer. Rejected and persecuted in this world, may be. Forever linked with the living Christ, certainly. In his letters to the Corinthians, Paul speaks about the believer appearing before the judgment seat of Christ, the Bema, so that lives of service can be assessed and rewarded. That done, the church is ready to be joined to the Lord at the marriage supper of the Lamb. What a joy it will be to be in that settled, loving relationship with the one who loved me and gave himself for me. This is the true church's glorious hope. All that is false within Christendom is done away with. The true church in heaven is to be forever with the Lord. The thought of this naturally caused John to fall down in worship. However, the angel that had been speaking to him reminds him that it is our God that should and must be the only one that has our affection and deserves our worship.